with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome our newest board member, Joanne Case, to the board.
Okay.
You've been duly sworn and all that good
I
stuff.
have been
Okay.
sworn in and out
Okay.
many times. And we truly do welcome you aboard. Thank you, dear.
Okay, and then again, under public participation, I remind people not to make any disparaging remarks. Let's keep everything on the up and up here and ask away. Who would like to participate in public participation tonight? Mr. Sartell.
Yes. What I was gonna ask is, with the athletic handbook, I mean, what is, like, for instance, the dress code, why is that so important? Why does the board feel the dress code is so important in the
I
athletic
think it's
handbook?
before this board was even here, even before 6 years.
Well,
prior to now.
I've discussed it here at
Yeah.
prior meetings just within the last.
And I've had
couple
that question myself.
And why I ask is, you know, I think it's good kids dress, you know, it looks presentable and everything like that. But the way I see it is, I feel that's in the handbook because you're representing your school. You look good, you represent your school. And I think that if kids are bound to that handbook, to represent the school and everything, then I think, like, administration should be bound to the handbook as well. And I would like the board to find out how much representation the students down to the school have had at the principal meetings in athletics in the last 5 years. They keep attendance.
Okay, say that one more time.
I would like the board to find out how many meetings has been attended by the principal at the principal meetings to represent our children, our kids at the school. We're the only ones that's allowed to have a vote, which was discussed at the last meeting. And I feel that if we expect our children to abide by a rule book, a handbook, and they have to abide by it or there's consequences, I believe that should go the same to the administration.
Okay, we'll find that information out and have that at the next meeting for you.
And you know one thing, Tracy, that I'd like to see myself, and I've said it time and again, even like, let's say the Wesley Scholarship. They are there to support and help all the schools in this area for scholarships. And I feel we could contact them and not have a uniform for the kids, you know, but have something in, you know, that everybody says, well, it's comfortable for the kids and it all looks nice. It's even like we talked today about it for a minute. Our kids can't even go to the store and buy anything. You know, they just don't even have access to, you know, I've got to go, you know, gear up for sports and be presentable and everything.
Well, that, and if you're out at recess, you're bound to get dirty, if you're a gym this way. Now, I'm not saying any kids are like that, but some kids may have one set of dress clothes. So if they
That's
get
for
dirty
sure.
or if something gets ripped, you know, I'm not saying that there is, but I mean, there may be cases of that. And
Yeah.
I think as long as they're presentable to go to school, they ought to be presentable enough, you know,
Yeah.
to go to a game. Although they do look good dressed up, you know, I'd encourage it, but.
Okay, anyone else under public participation? Mr. Tinker?
Yeah, on that same note, I believe if you look in the minutes, like, of the meetings previous, that I do believe that the board has asked the principal to go to those meetings. I do believe that you'll find, if you look back 2 years ago, you'll find that the board asked her to participate in those meetings. that's on that. And another thing that I'm concerned with is transparency. I 3 years ago, I heard a parent, talking at a board meeting about transparency, and last year I heard parents, talking about transparency, and it's the same thing this year. Hiding behind stuff, like I'm just gonna call it, I'm not sure how the whole process goes with like the executive session that the board took at the last meeting, and what I guess my question is to the board, and I don't know if I have the right to even ask these questions, I'm just curious. What I'm wondering, what I'm asking is that, why was executive session called? What was the reason for that?
For the last meeting,
Yes,
was for a personnel issue?
personnel issue.
Yep.
So, I'm not personnel, right?
No.
So, what if, my question is, was I mentioned in that discussion? Was that something that I was mentioned in, or is that just,
It
was just
it
for
was
the
a pro-
personnel
It was
then.
a process to find out what changed in, let's say, hiring committee and so on like that, and what the process was and the thought process behind that was.
Right. So, it was about the process, so I wouldn't have been mentioned. I guess is
You
what I'm
really
getting.
weren't, it was the process that was mentioned,
Right,
on what changed in prior years.
right,
The,
right,
never had a hiring committee to hire coaches or athletic directors.
right. Because I was just wondering, like, if the board's in there, if they're talking about me, wouldn't I have the right to be there?
If you were part of the school, part of the staff of the school,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
But in this case here, we weren't really talking about any particular individuals, we were talking about the process on the hiring of coaches for the last
Right,
hiring of coaches.
yeah, thank you.
And things that we talk about in executive session, stay in executive session, so.
Right,
We try not to, like I said, out in open session, we don't disparage people and so on like that. And if there was some other reason, that we were gonna be talking about an individual staff member and so on like that, yes, then they would have the right to be there.
right. Okay, I was looking for, I guess, clarification or more information on, I've been trying to find out why I wasn't brought back. I mean, I'd just kind of like to know what the reasoning is, is it a personal thing? I mean, it's what it feels like to me, maybe I'm wrong, hopefully I'm wrong, right? But it felt personal, it still feels personal, and I haven't been able to get these answers, no one is willing to answer these questions for me, and I'm trying to find out, because I may need to do something, in my defense. I need to find out, were the complaints made, were there accusations made, what the whole reason why you would have someone that's volunteered for years. And again,
I think the vehicle you might wanna choose is maybe to have a meeting with the superintendent and the principal.
Yep.
You have to be the correct route to travel on that.
And I will add to that, Sean, if you're not happy with your results, and this is for any parent or anybody, of course, we have a chain of command.
Yep.
And you can talk, at the level you will with the superintendent and principal. But if you're not happy at that level, people can come to the school board too.
I
So
mean,
that's the chain of command.
I'm not saying, what has happened, but it just seems almost obvious to me that something happened, like I said last week. I mean, there was a falling out somewhere. Something happened down along the line from being hired for 17 seasons, 10 years, and then all of a sudden, all 5 people say, oh, no, we
Let me
don't
do a
want
little digging to find out if there is a vehicle to get you into an executive session.
Yep.
Because there's specific rules that we have to follow on personnel and what we talk about in executive session, why we go into executive session.
Yep.
So let me find out if there's a vehicle to get you into one.
All right.
Okay, no promises, but I think the first start is to sit down with the superintendent and
Yeah, that's what I'll
and
do.
the principal. And like I said, we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like I said before, I keep hearing transparency.
Absolutely.
We can't just,
One of the main reasons we moved up to the town office here, to put this on
Right,
TV
absolutely.
is transparency.
Yep.
And it's difficult sometimes, you know, as an outsider, not really knowing or how the board functions.
Yep.
Okay, on a normal level and so on like that. You know, unless you sit here to really find out how the steps that we have to take to be, you know, protect the school, protect the children, protect the personnel, protect the public, protect the parents.
Right,
Okay, so.
Yep.
Let me do some work on that.
all right.
But like I said, the first step, I think, is to make an appointment with the superintendent and principal and
Okay.
start questions.
Yep. Thank you.
Just my opinion, what I think a lot of people get upset about is if somebody has something to say that may be negative, then coincidentally, they're pretty much shunned from the school department, is what it looks like. And if the federal investigation is still on into the school and one of the topics being retaliation, it really doesn't look that good as a person looking into that.
I did see you back there. You have a question, a comment?
Yes.
You were hiding over there, so sorry.
During the meeting of the 7th, I think it was brought up that the school is eligible for an energy efficient lighting upgrade. I wonder if you have a status on that, if it's moving forward, or,
I do have a status on that.
oh, thank you.
Let me present a report.
It can be.
Okay, because I've been doing some digging on that too, so.
Good.
Okay, any other, in public participation?
Just one,
Go ahead, Al.
It sounds like we have information on the small schools league for basketball this year. I think Debbie had posted that if we had any questions, we could contact her, but I'm wondering if we're in the small schools league for basketball
I
this year.
don't know, are we?
Debbie had asked that if anything is asked about athletics, that people please contact her and she will answer your questions.
I called over at the office today and left a message for Mr. Johnson to please bring that information tonight because I knew
Yeah,
people were
it seems like a
interested.
simple,
Yeah,
I mean, you guys would know, right? Are we in the small schools league?
Tina attended the meeting
Last night.
last night, and I was in Perry, and the principal of Perry got to leave the meeting to come to my meetings.
So we're waiting on kids to sign up, if there's enough kids, so sign up sheets are out.
Okay, there you go. Sign up sheets are out.
and how would those, I just want to ask one question, how are those sheets written up? Because today I heard that there's going to be an age limit on this again. And it
Yeah.
states very clearly in our policy that we can go down if we have to obtain a team. Sorry about that, guys. And so what's with that, Tina? They said 6th to 8th grade, and what is the normal?
Debbie's working on that.
What's the normal on the team, Sean?
I mean,
What age
they
level?
changed it last year to just 7 and 8, and that's so we're not gonna be able to field teams.
Now,
If
I
they do
want to
that.
just,
If we go back to what we normally
What's
done,
in the hand?
when Jordan Grant,
I'm
well,
sorry,
when,
it's up to the
a few years ago, when we were doing this, they took down, we had 5th graders starting on our junior high team. They took down and made a team, just like the rest of the league does. That's what they do. Edmonds last year had 5 3rd graders on their team. Now, I know what's gonna be said, oh, well, we have Pee Wee going at the same time. And I know, well, my heaven forbid they play too many games, right? Last year, there was 12 games in one league and 10 in the other. That's not too many games in 5, 6 months of basketball. I mean, come on.
but I'm
Let the
asking
kids play.
you,
Why are we making rules to?
I just want to add one thing to this, Sean. In our policy that we're using right now, our athletic policy, it says all the rules, regulations, and policies are subject to change with notice by AD and principal as approved by the school committee. So, you know, this is something that we need to talk about. We don't have enough kids, I don't think. And we do have plenty down on the lower end for Pee Wee, but we need these students and they wanna play.
When I, helped Miss Tyler for 3 years in PE basketball, we'd take second graders.
You took first graders, one year.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we didn't have to, we had the numbers, but we took them.
Cause they
I
wanted
mean,
to
you
play
have, you have to let them
When does this season start?
play.
after February vacation.
Okay.
Hopefully the sign-up sheet has, the grades, obviously,
Yeah.
that can,
I mean, now, on what it says in the athletic handbook, that could be subject to interpretation too, right?
Well, the way I
By the way
interpret
it was
it,
read.
it's by approval of the school committee.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's worded. Our kids work hard to stay and be on these teams. And I guess the part that frustrates me is sports is about kids. And we have so little for our kids, and they deserve to play ball.
Not just that, but obesity in Canada and the United States is one of the
Yes,
number
and
one
yes.
problems with youth.
Yeah.
Obesity, let's get them active, let's get them
Well,
off.
later on in the
these
meeting, we're gonna go establish a subcommittee for rule changes in the athletic handbook. So maybe who was ever on that, we can get that together before the season starts and adjustments need to be made and so on like that to that athletic handbook.
Well, even on the handbook, it's just been 2 years that we,
Right.
it was in 2017, I looked in my notes, and this is just 2 years old, and what is the need to have to change it in 2 years? If it's, working, why are we fixing it?
Well, that's why I think we should put the subcommittee together, maybe work on it for a couple of weeks and see if there's anything that needs to be changed. If not, then we'll go with what we have. So,
I was trying to mention one thing about something different. You guys looked at different heating systems. I thought of it when she was mentioning about the, lights. I don't know if anybody here has seen it, but out to, where Firth has, CCLC, it's wood, boiler, and it does everything, even the different buildings, the whole works. It burns 20 cord a year. That's quite
a
amazing.
lot of regulations involved where.
Oh, I bet there is, but where he has a school there, I was wondering maybe, I don't know how much they cost, anything like that. It might be something, just to kind of look at the figures, as long as insurance didn't offset the rest of it.
There's a lot of regulation. I mean, that type of a school out there is different than this type of a school
Right.
here.
Because it's in a whole separate,
Yeah.
the boilers, everything's separate building.
And, a couple of years ago, I even looked at a biomass boiler. Okay, went down to, I think it's in Thorndike, Maine, and I looked at a setup down there where they actually had to build a separate building to house the biomass.
Yeah.
And I don't know how efficient that is and how it's going. It was a couple of years since I've been down there, so. And I know it was very labor intensive as far as making sure it gets fed and so on like that, and making sure it was cleaned properly and so on, so. Anything other than the conventional oil or gas or whatever, there's all kinds of regulations that go into that.
Yeah.
So, and just on that, if I recall correctly, they had to build a separate building to house the fuel, and that was an additional $70,000 just for that, just for the building, so. So there's a lot you have to look at when you're looking at
Oh,
another
yeah,
building like this.
just like
here.
theirs is a whole separate building, and everything is in.
John?
I'm curious, I guess, about, and I don't know the answer to this either, I'm just asking the question about, is there a policy in place for faculty posting stuff on Facebook, negative stuff? Is there a policy for that? And if there isn't, maybe there should be?
I haven't seen one. I've been told there is. I've been told it's in the handbook. I really couldn't find it anywhere.
I have it, I have a copy, it was in 2014, and I brought it tonight, and hopefully, Mr. Johnson, you approved that we would put it on the agenda for next time, about social media.
And it's an actual policy that the
Yes,
school
it
board
is.
voted through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then that
I mean, I just wanna say that there has been negative stuff posted by several teachers, and it's personal to me and to Jordan, who Jordan has really done, as far as I am concerned, as far as I can see, no one has found any fault in Jordan, he's just,
Okay.
and there's been negative posts posted on there, and it's, when I interviewed for the coaching job, one of the first things they told me was there wouldn't be any posts put on Facebook. And I don't understand why you're telling coaches they can't post, but, okay, we can talk about the Fifth Amendment, everyone has the right to this or the right to that, but I just want to know that if, and this is it, if a parent posted, no, if a faculty member posted that that a child came to one practice, was bullied, and didn't come back, I kept strict records. Thank you, Miss Boscat, because she required us to keep records, to do attendances, that would be false, that no one has ever played for us for less than a month. And then there's rules that says that they miss all kinds of practices, that they're supposed to be off the team. Well, we give benefit of the doubt, because it's not always the kid's fault. And I'm not blaming the parent either. I'm just saying there's circumstances at times where kids can't get there, right? And I just want the board to know that if posts were made, and I don't know who's seen them, who hasn't, it don't matter, but if posts were made that said that a kid came to one of our practices and quit, that would be not the truth. And I don't think faculty members should be posting that. I have documentation that that's not the truth. And now we have that. That's the same thing again. It's bullying, Mike. It's bullying. It's trying to forward your agenda by
So
saying
I have something here that says it's a policy. We're gonna look into it and find out,
All right, thank you.
you know, if it is a policy, it's a valid policy, written and so on like that, and we'll probably have to look into it legal-wise too,
Yep,
as
thank
far
you.
as freedom of speech, because a lot of people look up in arms about, you know, look, what I do on my off time is freedom of speech. So we'll look into that, and we'll have an answer at the next meeting.
Just so the board knows, there's an athletic director, and one of her athletes has seen that she has shared some, and it's her father that's on this post. And that's one of the athletes that's at the school, and a faculty member that's at the school, and a kid that still goes there. So, you know, that's kind of personal to me. And it's upsetting.
We can look into it.
And the kid is now on her Facebook, because she has one, counting the days till she leaves our school. And that is sad. That upsets me. Now I'm upset because that upsets me when kids are on their Facebook posts are counting the days down every day till they leave our school. That's a problem.
There's social media like Facebook was never invented, trust me.
I know. To Facebook, I understand.
So, I'll speak to that a little later in the meeting too, so. We look at that and find out if that's an active policy there. You know, probably have to talk to Dan Rose. Any other public participation tonight? Okay.
I
Next.
just want to say, welcome to the Hornets now. And thank you.
I don't have my sweatshirt on tonight. Okay, to consider approval of the November 21st, 2019 school committee minute meetings as written or with corrections as recommended by the superintendent of schools. So, we have 3 board members who were here at that meeting. You weren't, so.
Well, we don't have an opportunity, not yet, I know to speak about that.
What's that?
I had a few,
You have corrections to make? Absolutely, that's the time to do it.
well, maybe not corrections, just review
I have
a couple of things.
Down here in public participation, would I be a liar if I said 2 coaches said there were, they should say, were no other applicants? And on the second page, Tracy Sawtell noted that there had been no criticism of new coaches, but the objection of the process.
Where was that on the second page?
Down towards the bottom, still in public participation.
Yeah, let me see that second correction now. Where is it?
Down towards the bottom.
Okay, I've got it, Tracy noted there's no criticism, what was it, correction?
Of the coaches, of the new coaches, but the objection of the process.
So change and to but?
Yeah.
Okay, here's one.
Okay.
I just had quite a couple of questions.
Is that a blank? I'll have to text a copy of the minutes right there.
I just had a question on, I wondered if these, the new coaches, realize that these teams, they don't have a stipend that goes with them. It's not called the All-Star anymore, but it doesn't have a stipend.
What team is that?
These, the two teams that are playing now, they're not called the All-Star, they changed the name of that.
St. Croix League teams? That was previously the All-Star, so there's no stipend attached to that?
There's no stipend that's ever been given for these games. So have the new coaches been made aware of that?
That I don't know, and if there's been no stipend for the All-Star games, it's a question of what's in the contract, because I believe the extracurricular positions are posted in the contract, and this is a negotiation year, so that's something that we can update in the springtime.
Well, Sean
And
did it
if
for
it isn't-
13 years?
Seven,
Seven
that
years.
league.
Yeah.
And in the past, and the existence of that team and that activity predates my arrival, in the past, it may have been unclear whether or not that was a school-sponsored event, or whether it was something the parents organized, whether there were multiple schools participating, but I can find out. But that is the resolution process, through negotiations, and simply add that to the list of extracurricular positions, that's how we would address it.
I'm just wondering if they're aware that there's, and down here where you made the recommendation for the new AD, I want to make it clear, and I want it in the minutes, that, you know, that I'm not, well, we didn't have to vote because you recommended it.
So there's no record of a vote being taken, so that's what it
Yeah, but
says.
I don't, that's nothing that I feel comfortable with, but I want that put in the record in our minutes that Ron Matthews is comfortable with your appointment.
I did make a note on the superintendent's report. Okay, so under the superintendent's report, I did make a note that the school board does not hire coaches or athletic directors. We really have no pride in
I
those
just
saying.
wanted to be put in the minutes to adjust that I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah, let me say that.
The softball, they get stipends, don't they? They
I
have-
believe that everything else is covered except this one here, I believe.
Oh,
Would it,
because the person that did softball last year never received a stipend.
No, he hasn't yet. No.
would it be fair to say if a boys coach got a stipend for the All-Star League and a girls coach didn't, that there would be something wrong with that? Is that a fair statement? Previous years, just saying.
I don't know. So we'll look into
It
that
seems a
when we
little
find out what's going on.
And I'm not
We'll make that
asking for
adjustment.
money because I don't want a dime or anything. I volunteered, but it just seems odd that you can say, well, we're gonna call this a junior high team because we don't have one. And we're gonna pay you to have an all-star team, kids from out of town, and then we're not gonna pay this coach.
We'll look into that and make that adjustment.
Well, I can tell you that we can only pay what's listed in the contract. So if an activity is not listed in the contract, then my office can't issue, when I say contract, in the collective bargaining agreement, then my office can't issue a coaching one-page or a work agreement type contract, because they essentially have to match. So what we've done in other places, and this has come up in some other towns, if one activity doesn't have enough kids to participate, but we've got some interest in something else, the board can vote to assign money for a stipend where there's no activity going on, create a new one, and then apply the budgeted money to the new activity. I've done that in some places, and if that's something that we need to do, then that's something that we
I
need
think
to
we
do.
do have that opening in a couple of places.
So would you have done that for like a boys team and not a girls team? Is that what you would do?
No,
Or would it
you-
be, but in the same league, the same teams, the same games, the same
Yeah.
night, would it be both?
No, it's either both or neither.
Okay.
Because you got to treat both boys and girls coaches the same for the same sport. Now, some contracts actually have a graduated scale for experience. So conceivably, you can pay a boys coach more than a girls coach if the boys coach had like 10 years more experience.
Right.
But if it's a flat rate, and it is in most of the towns, actually all my towns, it's a flat rate. The flat rate is the same for boys and girls. But I do know of some some contracts that give like an extra 10% or whatever to veteran coaches, and they take a step the way that teachers do, but that just isn't the case here. So the short answer is, flat rate, boys and girls coaches, same sport, same money.
Should that coach remind the school that they didn't get a stipend?
Well, what should happen is at the end of the season, and this is part of the documentation that the auditors check, in order to release a stipend from my office, there should be some note saying, I, coach's name, have successfully completed the season, please release my stipend. And that creates a paper trail that my office follows.
And in Lubec, I know that the athletic director releases that, so
Okay.
that this coach has done their,
Yeah.
fulfilled their duties and.
Right. And what that does is it informs my office that the season is over, the coach has completed their duties, please, payment and payment comes.
So if that didn't get to your office, obviously either someone saying they didn't complete their duties or the athletic director dropped the ball, because I know for a fact that the AD does that. I get it, so I know.
So we didn't have any.
So we'll look in and just see if there's stipends available on other extracurricular activities that's not being used, and see if we
I'm
can
just
take that
asking
and
that the
assign
board
it to that.
look back and see that, and just make sure that the boys coach didn't get paid for all-star basketball 1 year, and the girls coach didn't, or vice versa, or, because
There's
I
a
don't,
way- there's a
I'm
way we
not
can do
privy
that.
to that information, but
Chad's gonna be.
what I understand is that may have happened.
Okay. So, again, to consider approval of the November 21st, 2019 school committee minutes, meeting minutes as written and with corrections, as recommended by the superintendent of schools. May I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on the minutes from last meeting? All in favor?
Did you make that motion, Mike?
Yes. Okay, principal's report.
The monthly report. Very short report. At the last meeting, I gave you all of the events up through Christmas vacation, just thinking about snowstorms. I'm pleased to say that the Quaddy Bay Tea Ladies gave us a donation of $370 with a nice card. It said, "Dear Miss Wormel, please use these small donations any way you and your staff see fit for the kids. Keep up the great work. You are all doing great at elementary school." And a nice thank you card. Last meeting, I gave a list of repairs, and I didn't know if you thought about if there's anything you want me to start getting quotes on. Or
Probably the
not.
windows and the floor, maybe, we talked about that. And the reason I'm saying get the quotes now is maybe during the December break, we could probably at least get the floor done.
Okay, get quotes.
What about the little building?
3 windows. In the classrooms, in the gym floor.
The gym floor is buckling
Yep.
again, I think, who did that?
I could find that information out at your office who did the gym floor repair. They came in quick and did it
Yeah,
for us,
yeah.
just like that.
Chad?
So I'm figuring if we could probably maybe get something in there and maybe get it during the Christmas break or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Chad.
Who did it at the beginning of the year, Gina?
That was the varnishing and stuff,
varnishing.
and that's Pam Wood that does University of Machias, Elm Street School.
That was
Um,
outstanding.
She did a very nice job.
Beautiful.
Very
Two
nice
years
job.
ago, we had Searles
That's who came down and
come
did,
in and did the floor, yeah, we did the floor where it was buckling and so on like that. I haven't been down to look at it, I'll probably be down tomorrow to look at it.
it's not real bad, but Billy noticed it, so
It's like,
it
why
was
is it
proactive.
doing it again? So,
Yeah.
I mean, originally it was because all the steam was going up, you know,
Mhm.
steam thing. The other thing is we have, that small building that's outside there.
Yeah,
Now, we had
it's-
talked about that a couple of years ago about, getting, so you can get some soliciting donations to do something and maybe replace that.
Yeah, probably, I looked at it 1 year, me and Jordan were gonna volunteer to do the work, and
Yeah.
we just wanted the money to pay the cost for the material and stuff, and we didn't, we didn't get it, I'm not blaming anybody, it
Well,
just didn't
how much
happen.
is that building?
But I
I
think,
have
looking
that
at it, it'd
sport
be cheaper to replace than fix at this point.
Not a whole lot, it does store equipment, mostly softball and baseball equipment, I believe.
I mean, is there really a need for that building then? Or you store softball stuff inside the school itself?
I could look to see what's for room under the bleachers in the gym. I don't know how full, I know our chairs are in there,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
yeah.
I mean, some of it probably cost.
And then you may have a problem getting the use of the stuff, like when you want it, like, say a softball or for painting the fields, because they do the soccer lines and everything, have to keep that stuff in there.
I mean,
And if,
that building does have a nice cement foundation,
Yeah,
the roof line doesn't look too bad, roof line looks pretty straight.
Well, the last time I looked at it, it was kind of punky.
the doors,
Yeah,
The door's gone, the trim's gone.
yeah,
I mean, and there was some, you know, beams and crossbeams, and the truss was quite punky.
is that something you,
I don't know, it's, you know, to replace it might be a couple of $1,000.
mhm.
To repair it might be a couple of $1,000.
Right.
yeah.
So it's like, you know, what do you do with a building that, you know, it's gonna cost
I
more to
mean,
repair
I
it
don't
than.
know if we need something
replace
that
it.
large, and
No,
the
we
little buildings
Yeah.
that are over the true value, I don't know what
Yes.
the cost is of those. I can look into the
Yeah,
cost
you
of
can
a
look into
building.
what it costs them, so,
Give me a diary,
a whole new school down there where we're at, you know. But I think the floor and the windows right now take priority, what's going on. You said the windows were leaking,
Yes, there were 3 of them.
okay, so.
Those are in classrooms.
Yeah, there's also, some socket stuff on the outside of the building, I have to look at and see what's going on with that, but I think that the floor is the priority right now.
All right,
Shannon.
Do we agree with the floor is the priority right now?
Yeah, in the window.
Yeah, so,
What's wrong with the floor?
okay.
Just starting to buckle again a little bit down
Oh,
on that
yeah,
furthest
yeah,
end.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, this is something that the Butler Foundation could look into, a building to store whatever. I know that they've said that they are willing to, you know, help out any way they can. I didn't get the bus that I
You
wanted.
wanna handle that?
I will, I
Okay, there you
will.
go.
They're the ones
Call
that
them up.
started Cook Shores
That'd be
with the kayak
appreciated, I'll
and
tell you.
all that stuff.
Yep.
Oh, so I can take this off my list then, it just went on to her?
Yeah, I'll put it on mine.
Yeah, because when I looked at that building last year, it was pretty punky then and so on like that. I didn't see a lot of stuff being stored in there.
No, we could use a way smaller building.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just bring, Tina, since you got this for us, but, and I've talked about it before, but it's miscellaneous funds that the school has, like it has a Kiwi budget, it has, all the classes that, you know, have saved money. And I asked Mr. Johnson week before last if, you know, we can look into this and, you know, maybe use some of this money for sports or things that the kids need. We just gotta find where the paperwork is in the move, it got shuffled somewhere, but it's $69,000 and it's been sitting here, since, some of it since 2007 or earlier. And there's a Pee-wee basketball, there's some for books, there's a scholastic book, and a lot for the sports like cheering, and LES has $800 in it. I mean, if we can find out where the receipts are, you know, how can we, you know,
And the other thing I would add, and you're exactly right,
yeah,
just so the board knows, we've spent some of that money on your security system by board vote
Yeah.
already, and also the bullying presentation that was done at the school back in September. So of that amount of money that you have in front of you, I'm going from memory, the quote for the security system, 12 or 13,000, and 1,000 for the bullying presentation. So conservatively, we've spent 13 to 15,000 of that, so just keep that in mind, that's all I'm saying.
yeah. But these other funds, I'm hoping that we can, you know, get our hands on a little bit for some of these things that, you know, for the kids.
Okay, well, we'll dig into that, maybe we can get some funds out for the building, so.
And
Okay,
then the last thing on the principal's report is just to give an explanation of the reading program and the math program. So the reading program that was purchased last year came to a little bit over $20,000. That is for all students in K through 8, and that is over a 5-year period. So that only amounts to $4,000 a year. The math program was a little bit over 10 grand, and that was title money that if we didn't use would have had to been sent back to the federal government. These upgrades are good for 5 years, and I'm not putting sports down, but we do spend $20,000 a year plus what boosters does a year. So the curriculum's over a 5-year period and a smaller amount of money, just because it was questioned. And that's all I have.
It was a question in a negative way though, Tina, that was me questioning it.
Right, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
explain it
But I
and make it
didn't-
known that it's over a 5-year.
Yeah, for any way for that to be a
for the
negative
curriculum.
question at all.
And that is the end of my report.
Okay. School board, anyone from the school committee have anything?
I'd just like to say a few things. Being new and just being up here, and I am on Facebook, and I have seen a terrible amount of negative publicity towards this school. And I've seen the MEA scores, they're very high, math, literature. My grandson was very high in both. I'm very proud to think that we could all get together and try to support the staff and the school. I mean, there's been so many negative things on Facebook. I mean, I was appalled by one person saying that our principal was out drinking at her work job. Now, I mean, you know what? I don't for 1 minute believe that at all. And that is slander. Nothing but pure slander. So, I mean, you're talking about bullying, you're talking about all that stuff. It's on Facebook by everybody. By everybody. I'm just saying. You know, if we're gonna have a school and we're gonna have a nice school, we gotta get together, people. We gotta gel. We gotta gel here.
It starts right down there, the principal, the teachers, everybody.
Okay.
That's where it
Everybody's
starts.
everybody's gotta
play
gel
with
together.
That's what I'm saying, that's
You
where it's
know?
gonna start though, right?
Right.
And you gotta
But
stay on social media.
that's
because
what I
nothing
hope
but
to
hate.
see, Paul.
Me too,
You know?
believe me.
I really
I
do.
would love to see it come back like it was when I was down there years ago, when I went to school,
Me too.
right?
I
We had Mr.
graduated
Hall
from
and
there,
Josh
huh?
Schultz and all them there.
You know, I mean, I would like to think
You
that we
have
all
2 or
got
3 teachers
together.
and school's out, they're there. The rest of them, they're gone.
Well,
But
I
that
just,
doesn't mean teachers don't take work home and do it.
I ain't
want-
saying they're not taking nothing
So
home.
even if they're
I,
gone, they're
no, I
still
didn't
doing work.
start this to get negative stuff.
No, I'm not either,
I'm
I'm just
just really
saying.
trying to say that I think that we should get together. I'm new at it, I'm trying to be positive,
Yeah, ball case,
but MEA
Yeah.
scores are high. I mean, you know, we've got a new math program, a new literature program going on that we just purchased. I mean, I really, you know, we gotta give them some kind of credit. We gotta
exactly.
stick behind our teachers.
But somewhere along the line, somewhere, this is all built up somewhere, right?
Well,
No,
Anyone else on the school board
I'd
have
just
anything?
like to say that I think we
I'd
ought to
like to
stick
see it come
together
together too, and
behind
everything
our
just
staff and
runs
our,
very smooth and goes great
administration.
for the community.
I haven't
We all
seen,
feel that way, but we've been batting our heads in the same
See, I haven't
issues
been, I
year
don't know,
after
I
year
don't know
after
what's
year.
going
Folks.
on, I'm just saying that
Let's
I'd
move
like
on
to
with
see us
this,
stick
okay?
We all
together,
would,
you know?
and it starts at the top.
I haven't seen
Thank
much
you.
Wanda.
complaints about education.
Okay, seen what, Tracy?
I haven't seen people complain about education.
No, I haven't either. I really haven't.
I haven't seen that once.
Negativity's been mostly directed at people, I think, myself included.
It's like when you're told to go speak to a teacher or something, like everybody always did.
I'd
Then
just
you
like
told-
to see everybody support
then
our
you told
staff.
no. Because you got a smell. Yeah, a
Okay.
smell.
Okay.
I don't know anything about them, just
I'm
starting
sure
fresh.
the superintendent can fill you in on it.
Wanda,
I wanted to ask Mr. Johnson, can employees drive on the bus, ride on the bus?
And employees ride on the bus.
Yeah.
We have employees who ride on the bus in terms of chaperoning events, field trips. So employees are on the bus in pursuit of their duties.
what bus are you
Well,
talking about?
I'm talking about in, especially this one, we have a staff member down there, and she gets rides a lot, but I think the bus buzzes right around her home house, that she could catch a ride on the bus someday, just to, get a ride home,
I mean, it's probably been done.
yeah.
I don't know of any rule prohibiting it. What I would check would be the terms of the contract, because we expect teachers to be at school ahead of the students, and it would depend on when the bus arrives.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure there have been cases somewhere where a teacher has had a temporary inconvenience and has jumped on school bus,
Is this person a teacher
It's, tech.
or an ed tech?
Yeah.
but they,
But
but,
ed tech have to be in the same time as teachers?
A little bit after,
Well, the bus gets there, golly, about 4 hours.
about five past. I think they pull out at 10 past ahead of
Yeah.
time.
I think the only restrictions I've seen on adults on buses are to sporting events. I haven't seen anything else. You'd have to check the contract and find out where that lies in there, so.
I
And,
think it'd be convenient.
I think it would be a good idea if, if this particular person doesn't have a ride, and especially in a cold winter day, it'd be a nice
It
thing.
would be, yes.
and Saturday, speaking of Facebook, but it wasn't really negative, it was a question Karen had about, they had heard that we had mentioned for, these makeup days to be on Saturdays. Well, I don't recall that being said.
Yeah,
That
I'm gonna be discussing that.
Okay, but I wanted to, let the parents know that I just don't feel that Saturday was, brought up that day. And the great thing is, guys, we can always review a tape on everything, and that's the good news. And, we had put off, on Brittany Ray Tina. Now, is she coming this month still? or
I
wait?
have not
Yeah.
heard back. I'm not sure what the status is
Yeah.
with her dad.
Yeah. Policies, and Mr. Johnson, you're gonna look at this policy, and I believe it is, and I need to actually fax you over a copy.
what's the social media?
Yes, but I've just, does the staff yearly review policies, like we have to review policies every year, and does the staff review, certain policies every year?
The staff wouldn't necessarily have review power over your policy manual.
Yeah.
They're not, that's just a hierarchical thing. However, building level policies, what to do if a student is
Well,
tardy,
not
what
those
things like
type,
that.
no, the type that pertain, the ones that we review are the ones that pertain to us, that would
What-
pertain to,
The answer is, if a policy is difficult to implement, if some questions arise, a faculty member can ask questions of either Tina or myself, and we would have to relay those questions to you. They do have input, but revision authority rests with the board on those policies. And as I've said many times, subtle changes in policy I'm not worried about, but a major substantive change, I would have to run it by our legal services to make sure that you're in compliance with the law. But those policies in our binders, like the one you see tonight under number 2, the adoption of policy GBO, the board has review power over those. I mean, a faculty member of the teachers can relay input, cares, or concerns through administration, but this board has review power over those policies.
no, what I mean is.
Am I misunderstanding? I'm sorry if I am,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like every year, we have to review certain policies that, like in medical, like
Yep.
nurse.
The familiar sound.
Yeah, like confidentiality in this one and that one, and we review them every year. I'm wondering, do they review yearly, like,
Okay, so a couple things. At the start of the year, where we have district-wide training,
yeah,
many times they're briefed at the start of the year on important changes in the law, and I've done that myself. Also, we have administrator meetings. I did cancel the one for tomorrow. We usually have the first Friday in December, but I'll catch up with them in January. And I have indeed funneled changes in policy to the administrators and explained how the changes in policy affect supervision through the administration, and I encourage and ask them to pass it along to the staff members. And I'm thinking of one in particular that came down a couple of years ago. Yes, it was passed by the legislature, but it had profound impacts on supervision, and I made sure our principals understood what that meant. So there is a mechanism for it, but this board must formally adopt all policies before they take effect. I would just remind this board of that.
Okay, I think what she's getting at here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have handbooks for students, okay, that are given out to the students every year, beginning of school. is there a handbook to the faculty that's given out to the faculty every year, that they sign and acknowledge that they received it, they understand it, and so on like that?
No signature page.
There's no signature.
They are given a packet of handbooks. They get a packet like kids do at the beginning
Right.
of the year.
Okay.
I can
So,
add,
so there's no signature page on that, so they don't acknowledge that they received
no,
it?
but I can add that.
Is that what you're getting at, Wanda?
Well, yeah, it's, just policies that would apply to them, but they do have faculty
Right.
handbooks. Yeah.
Do you want a signature page?
I think there should be one. I mean, the students acknowledge that they've received it, or the parents acknowledge that they've received it.
And it's not a bad thing either, I mean, to refresh your.
I mean, it actually
mind.
covers everyone.
Yeah.
You received it, you can't say, well, I never get that policy, I never get that rule,
Yeah.
so. Oh, yeah, you did, you signed for it, so I think that's fair. Anything further, Wanda?
No, thank you.
Okay. I do want to talk about one thing, and Wanda kind of touched upon it. There was a social media posting, boy, I hate social media, about how the school board talked about Saturdays being made make-up snow days. That was never mentioned at the last meetings. We never talked about that at all. We talked about extending the school day, and we did not approve that at that time. At the end of that voting session, I did say we would probably revisit this at a later date, okay? So, we're gonna have an adjustment to the agenda, and actually I'm gonna speak a little bit more on that, but the problem is, with social media, is that, it's like that game telephone you played as a kid. By the time it gets to the 10th person, it's completely wrong, okay? And there's things put in there, and people believe what they see on social media and think it's the truth. Well, you know what? Half the time it's not, so, more than half the time it's not, so. I'll address what I'm talking about later on with an adjustment to the agenda, so that's what I have right now. Okay. Superintendent's report.
A quick item tonight, I mentioned that I was going to attend the Small Schools Coalition on the Friday before Thanksgiving, and I'm happy to say that I was able to do that. Had to pay attention driving up, it was kind of a slippery morning. Some of my colleagues came in late from around the state, but we all made it successfully. I wanted to highlight that because we had the Commissioner of Education join the group at the University of Maine on that particular day. So we were able to get her attention on a variety of topics. And I truly believe that our new commissioner understands the challenges that we face in the rural parts of the state. Challenges around filling vacancies, teacher certification requirements, and I really believe that she's looking at that with a fresh eye compared to some of the previous commissioners. So it was great to see the commissioner, great to interact with the other superintendents who serve rural parts of the state, and I really do look forward to that meeting. One other item I'll mention, since I mentioned certification requirements, on the following Monday, I met with Mr. Angel Laredo, who is the head of the Department of Education Certification Office, and Stephanie Fife at the University of Maine, and really bent their ear about the certification requirements. I stressed to them that the rural parts of the state need some flexibility in how the certification rules react. And there seems to be a tide of opinion in Augusta that the certification standards need to be more complex, more rigid, and that will greatly limit rural schools' ability to attract and retain teachers. So I took the opportunity to share my thoughts on the matter, and I was not alone in sharing those thoughts. So was able to meet with Small Schools Coalition on Friday, I believe that was the 22nd of November, and with the certification people from the Department of Education on the 25th. So with that, that's all I have in my report.
Different between public and private schools, too.
Very much so. Very much so. You're right, Tracy.
So you're looking to advocate to have the bar lowered
No,
for rural schools and what's available for teachers
I'll-
and certification?
I'll give you a little more specifics. When I say more flexibility, veteran teachers, Anna's here tonight, and certainly Tina, remember when an elementary teacher coming out of college had a K-8 general elementary certificate. They would have been certified to teach anywhere between grades kindergarten and 8th. There was a new certification law passed, which the commissioner championed the idea of tabling it for a year to the State Board of Education, and I'm happy to say that has happened. But that new law would have required teachers to have specific certifications in grade, in tighter grade areas, like early childhood to grade 3, and then one from 4 to 6, and then one from 6 to 8. And what that means is a teacher coming out of the gate is essentially pigeonholed at a grade level. So if you have somebody in grade 7 and 8, and they want to teach in grades 3 or 4, they can't because it's a certification violation. If you have combination classrooms like we do, and all of my elementary schools in the district have combination classrooms. I've got one school that has 3 grade combinations. If you straddle the line, if you combine 4, 5, and 6, a teacher would have to have 2 separate certifications under the new rule. There is a case study somewhere in the state, probably at the high school level, because they individualize subject material, where under the law, a teacher would have required 4 different certifications to do their current job because of the way it was divided up. And many other rural superintendents have mentioned the difficulty, and we need the flexibility. Personally, being able to hire a teacher in an elementary school with a K-8 certificate, they can teach any of those grade levels. So that really helps small rural schools attract teachers, fill positions. It helps administrators and teachers working together to find the best fit for a young teacher coming out of college. Maybe they think they want to be a primary teacher and work with grades 1 and 2, but you might try it for a year and think you want to work with some older kids. Well, it would be too bad if you had to go back through the recertification process. So that's what I'm getting at. So no, I'm not advocating lowering the bar. I am advocating for allowing rural areas and rural schools to be able to continue to have certified teachers, to continue to attract teachers to vacancies. So that's what the thrust of my comments were to the certification.
So could it go by population, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I don't know of a case where that has happened. I can tell you that there are a lot of competing interests in this law. Obviously, you have the superintendent's organization who feel, as I do, in the rural area. Certainly we don't speak with one voice. My colleagues in the larger parts of the state may certainly feel differently, but the teachers union, when I say the teachers union, the state level organization, the legislature also has an interest, the educational committee. So there are some high-powered interests that have their eye on this particular law and how the changes affect schools around the state. And it also affects post-secondary funding, because all the colleges, if they're cranking out teachers, if we say we need teachers, the colleges have to try and help fill the void, and there aren't a lot of teachers in the pipeline right now. So if you're at the college level and you have people who are graduating that are looking for jobs, and you're trying to help these students find jobs, well, there's a need in the rural areas for a science teacher or a math teacher. Maybe you try and push a student there. So it's a multifaceted issue, but it's one that is something that all of the superintendents around the state are facing in one form or another. I've got a colleague in the southern part of the state who's struggling to find an ESL teacher. Well, there's one problem I don't have, but it's certainly an issue for that particular district. Again, this is something that all superintendents have a vested interest in, and it's something that I didn't hesitate to put my 2 cents worth in.
Now, is certification the same as accreditation?
No. Accreditation is a voluntary submission to a set of standards that are put out by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. Many schools in the state are accredited, but not all, and that is different from school approval. In order to receive state subsidy, a school must have state approval. You have school approval. In the case of the private schools, they don't receive state subsidy, but they are approved for tuition by the state. So that works a little differently. But accreditation is a voluntary adherence to a higher set of standards as defined by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. So that's not the same.
Hopefully that'll,
Okay, adjustments to the agenda.
I have two tonight. I would like an adjustment to the agenda to consider.
Okay, the first one should be to consider and distribute Parent Snow Makeup Day survey.
That is correct.
Can we put that on 1 and have 1A?
We can do that.
Okay.
And the second agenda adjustment that I have tonight, we can make this number 4 under new business, be the last thing on our agenda for tonight. I would like an executive session for a legal matter, citation Maine Revised Statute, subsection 405, paragraph E, which is in fact for a legal issue. And I would like that at number 4 under new business.
So, any old business? Okay, under new business. Okay, so you have in front of you Parent Snow Day Makeup Survey, okay, that I talked about in the school board section. This is something that has to be attended to right now. And the reason I put this out now is because you see that the survey will go out and has 2 questions on the survey. First one is to extend the school day by 1 hour, 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, until the required days are made up. The second option is to make up snow day at the end of the school year in June. And this is already built into the school calendar. So if you go onto the Lubec school website, you look at the AOS calendar, you'll see in June, you'll see, I think it's after what, June 9th or something like that, or up till June 9th, you'll see SSSS. I think there's 5 days built into there, okay? So, so with that, you know, I've asked the parents who get this to mark an X on the smiling face, your choice below, and return this before December 17th, okay? So December 17th is the next Tuesday before the next meeting. So this way here, it will give us enough time to get the survey back. And the reason I'm doing it this way here is because we did have a survey on Facebook. The problem with the survey on Facebook is that we had people who weren't parents commenting on it. We had people from Portland, Maine commenting on it. Someone put a survey on Facebook, and they said that the school board had decided to go with Saturdays, which we didn't, okay? So this way here, it puts the information in the parents' hand, okay? And we want to hear from the parents, okay?
I will put that in report cards, just so people
Yeah.
watching can hear.
So-
That'll be tomorrow.
So I've given the copies to the school board members to look at and so on like that. I think it's pretty straightforward what we're looking at. And I think the timeliness of this is, you know, it's probably sometime in January we can start making up days. We've got 2 days right now under our belt, one for a flood situation and one for a school, a snow day rather. So, and then, you know, going forward and so on like that. We did hear from the teachers agree with the extending the day, but I really wanted to hear from the parents. And like I said, putting something out, you know, for a survey monkey, you have no control over, you know, it could be someone in California responding back to it. So this way here, it gives us a little bit better handle on what the parents want, because the parents might have to adjust their schedule. They might have to arrange for a babysitter or arrange for transportation, so on like that, so, we can put that out there, so. It will be to, the motion would be to, consider and approve a parent snow makeup day survey to be distributed. And Joanne's gonna make that motion. We have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on the survey, questions or anything?
No, I think that's a good thing to do, really, have to see that.
It's pretty straightforward. The other, they can put their name down if they want, it's optional, or they can just send it back without a name.
Can I ask a question, Mike?
Go ahead.
Is it, so is the Saturday thing is not on there, it's either extend the day?
We never
or
mentioned
extend-
Saturdays.
No, I know you didn't. I know
And
you
the
didn't.
Saturday thing, you know, it kind of makes sense. I, as a parent, you know, wouldn't want to see my kid go to school on Saturday. The simple reason is because there might not be any other kids, okay? It drags the teachers in, it drags the bus drivers in, it drags, you know, the food service personnel in, okay? So it would be a more costly thing to do, and for the last 2 years, we've been extending the days. You know, we've had some people that have had their opposition to it, you know, it's a long day for the kids, which I agree. Yeah, it's making it a little bit longer, but then if you look at the other options, okay, taking it out in the summertime, and I can probably say most of the people in this room probably got a little bit longer school year because we never made those school days up on Saturdays or whatever. I know in some cities and some towns, they actually do away with whole vacations, like February vacation would disappear, or the April break would
That's
disappear.
not happening.
So,
Now look what you've started, this is gonna be all
so
over.
now that I've said that, no, we're not considering that. There are only 2 options here.
No,
Two options, folks, okay?
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we do like to hear from the parents. I love to see parents come here, even if they just come in here, just sit, see what goes on, see the process, okay? But please, this doesn't mention anything about Saturday, folks, okay? So,
It's gonna be nice for us to learn.
we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Get this back by the 17th, the next board meeting, we'll have a vote on it, okay? Thank you. Okay. To consider disposing of music equipment.
So I spoke with the music teacher today. He has not had the opportunity to go through things. He felt that when he does have the opportunity to go through them, anything that's there that's worth fixing, he wants to keep. If
Okay.
it's not worth fixing, it belongs in the trash.
So I make a motion on this here, we table it till
Until Mr. Wilcox
we
says.
get a further.
motion, we table it.
So, okay, second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so we'll table that until a further discussion. To consider a policy, adoption of policy GBO Family Care Leave Act. Now, this, we've gone through several sightings on this here where we've actually reviewed it and so on like that. And this follows the federal FMLA. And it also complies with collective bargaining. Okay.
Can I just ask one thing, and I don't even know if this is the right one, Mr. Johnson, but are there any changes on the one that we're looking at right here? Are there changes? This is the one that I printed. So is this that? Is this one that one? I couldn't find that one on the main, you know.
Okay, so this would be the same subject. So what you have here is a copy of the actual law, whereas this is the policy. So the difference in the language is readily obvious, but that is the same thing.
So there aren't really any changes in it then?
So,
Okay.
what the policy does, and the reason the language is changed, it is the intent of helping an employee who may be affected. So the policy is written for, you know, the layperson to be able to read, interpret, and understand. Whereas some of those laws, if you're not a lawyer, good luck reading that one. But that is, you have got the correct listing there, Warren. That is correct.
Yeah,
Okay, we have a motion on that.
I make a motion that we accept the family care leave.
Okay, second on that? Any further discussion? All in favor? To consider establishing a subcommittee for the athletic handbook review. And like I said earlier, look at it. If nothing needs to be changed, nothing needs to be changed. And the reason we're asking this is because we did have something a few weeks ago where there's some verbiage that needed to be changed and so on like that. And there really wasn't any real time to really kind of digest what those changes were. So I'm looking for 2 people to volunteer to do that, and like I said, it might take a week, maybe 2, or if we can get it before, probably the first January meeting.
I mean, I already said I'd like to be involved.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
This has been ongoing for years and years and years.
No, This was actually revised, and Wanda was a big part of that a few years ago.
Sean was
So we've
too.
never had an athletic handbook before,
Oh, yeah, we have,
forever.
yes,
Yeah,
Whose job is it always to do the athletic handbook?
the board,
The board.
to make sure that the things are there and make sure any changes are approved by the board. And the reason there were changes 2 years ago, because there was some real language in there, it really didn't affect elementary school kids. It was more geared to high school kids and so on like that in there. So it was kind of, I don't wanna say softening of the language, but there were some adjustments that were made, and there was some adjustments made to dress code, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but, teams and so on like that, and there was a bunch of changes made. It took quite a
I just
while to
didn't
get
know.
it
well,
done.
about 3 or 4 hours we spent on it.
So,
5 of us for 3 or 4 hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
I
read
mean,
it.
there was a lot of stuff that was kind of condensed in. It was like, you know, you go to, page 3, and there'd be a conflicting sentence on page 10.
There was a lot of repeated stuff in
Yeah.
it too, that we just took out.
So all that stuff was
Said-
kind of
already
condensed
said
down
over
and
here.
kind of, made to work correctly. And now, I just want to make sure that there was some verbiage that needed to be changed. A couple of meetings ago, we discussed it. And I'd just like to have someone take a look at it again from the school board, just to see, do we really need these changes? If so, let's make the changes. If not, don't make any changes.
Wouldn't like the athletic director or someone like that be involved?
They can be involved in it, absolutely.
They've
Absolutely.
already been involved in setting it down, and now the board's gonna go and just make sure that.
But I'd like to
I
have a
didn't
couple
know-
board
I didn't know
members
the
and so on like that. I mean, it's a fairly simple process where it just really shouldn't fall on one person's shoulders to do it. Okay, it should be a couple of people to do it, with the athletic director, absolutely.
I was the AD at the time when we went over, and I was there, the
Yeah.
So-
principal was
And
there.
the gym teacher, I mean, is the
Yeah.
gym teacher involved? I mean,
He was, yeah. Well, not 2 years ago, he was.
So Wanda and Ariane, okay?
Yeah.
So, I'll make the motion to have Wanda and Ariane to be the subcommittee to look into this, whether changes need to be made or not.
Okay, and should we do it with, the athletic?
Absolutely,
Okay.
I encourage that, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can get together with Debbie and see if there's, things that, I mean, she might have input into this, absolutely. So, and then, I think if we can have this back, or have information back by the first meeting in January.
Mhm.
And by the way, you should have got an email on schedules, did you get those? So,
Thank you.
so that's the motion to have this subcommittee and get this information back by the first meeting in January.
Is there a second?
I have a second on that motion? All in favor? Okay, there we go.
I didn't get a schedule of meetings.
Yeah, I didn't have your email, so.
Kathy,
I'll get
Kathy
it
left
to you.
you a message.
Oh, yes, Kathy Barrett Morse?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
She set
yeah,
up
I
your
did, I
email.
just, that's,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
I did.
Okay, so, right now, we're gonna consider going into executive session, under MS 405E for a legal issue.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
And we will be out of executive session to let you know if there's any votes made.
Motion to go in.
Motion to go into executive session.